السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. Alhamdulillah, it's a tremendous blessing and honor to join you here today at this event to support one of the nation's few and rare and only publications that gives a voice to the Muslim community in print and through the news. We often complain as a community that our Muslim faith and our identity is not accurately represented in the media. That's a common theme that we hear about. And in fact, that's a reality. If you look at some of the data, while a very, very, very small percentage of criminal activity in America involves people who call themselves Muslim, yet over 80% of the incidents of violence that the media talks about often involves Muslims. There's a disproportionate targeting of our faith in our community. And there's a lot of resources and energy spent in targeting the American Muslim community through the media. But it's easy to point the finger at them, but when I travel this country and I visit so many Muslim majority communities, I ask them, how many Muslims do you have? Just the other week I was in Dallas. Dallas has one of the largest American Muslim communities. There's about 80,000 Muslims in Dallas alone. And I asked them, how many Muslims do you have working full-time in the media? They said, oh, we have one. I said, mashallah, you have one full-time Muslim working in the media. Great, who is he? I said, it's Imam Omar Sulaiman. I said, that is the problem, brothers and sisters. Poor Sheikh Omar and our other imams and our other leaders are expected to do everything. Right? As a community, you cannot flourish if we don't invest in the three key areas that shape the world within which we live. Number one is the media, because the media shapes the public perception. And unfortunately, the Muslim community, there's, hundreds of cities that have major Muslim populations in this country, dozens of major cities, and yet very few of them are blessed to have a newspaper that gives a voice to the American Muslim community. And a very small amount have Muslims that work full-time to make sure that our faith is accurately represented in the media. Now, whose fault is that? Is that the Islamophobes' fault? Is that the fault of the enemies of Islam? Is that the fault of those who hate us? No, it's our fault. And one of the constant themes that I tell the community is that our problem really is not how much the enemies of Islam are doing against our faith. Our problem is often how little we are doing to invest in representing ourselves, for ourselves, and in defending ourselves, and sharing the beauty of our faith with this country. Alhamdulillah, it's Allah's tremendous blessing upon us that He's chosen us to have a concern for the ummah, and have a concern for our community, and to have a concern for our future. Ibn Jawzi has said that if you want to know that your value with your Lord, you should look at how He is using you. And we should also ask ourselves, how is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala using us? Where is our time? Where is our energy going to? Of course, the biggest blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us, and the reason we do all of this work, is because we are blessed with the kalima of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. Truly having that kalima within our hearts and tongues is a tremendous gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And being grateful to Allah for having that kalima of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah is a tremendous gift. And we can't underestimate the value of this gift. This gift makes the difference between people spending their eternity in the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the eternity in adab. And Allah has blessed us with this kalima, not through anything that we have done, not through any ability that we have, but rather purely as a gift from Him. He's entrusted us with this kalima. What are we doing to share this beautiful kalima with the society around us? The enemies of Islam are spending their resources to take people away from the kalima of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. What are we doing to share the beauty of this kalima with our neighbors? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us, and in fact they will ask us. We really should take a moment, and I emphasize this because I will tell you a lot of my time does go into media, does go into law, does go into politics, and I'll get back to the point I was making earlier about investing in these three key fields. But ultimately, all of our effort without the kalima of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah is meaningless. When we speak about our future, we don't like to speak about the ultimate future, the ultimate reality, which is our last breath. That is our future, that time that we return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the most important future. As we know, the time we have on this life is very, very short. The number of heartbeats that we have is numbered, is limited. It is counting down to the final heartbeat. The number of breaths that we have is limited and counted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows exactly how many breaths He has given us. And we're all counting down to that last breath. And if at that last moment, as we realize that we never truly owned our bodies, that we were merely renting our bodies, and the price of that rental is La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. And as we realize that we no longer even have control over our body. And sometimes Allah reminds us of this. You know, there's a condition that sometimes we can get called sleep paralysis, which is when your body is still sleeping, but then your consciousness, you wake up, your eyes wake up, and you observe the world around you, but you don't yet have control over your body, so you're unable to move. Allah is reminding you that you're not even in control of the body that you think is yours. Your body is not yours. It is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there will be a time when you will leave it. So at that last moment, you may see your family around you, and you can no longer move your legs, you can no longer move your hands, and you feel your soul leaving. If at that moment we can say La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, then we're successful. Then our future is bright and beautiful. But if we can't, then it doesn't matter what we've accomplished, what we've built, what we've done, how much wealth we have, how much respect and fame and position and honor. It's meaningless. And subhanAllah, the beauty of the kalima of La ilaha illallah is it reminds us and it prepares us for that meeting. See, death can be difficult for a person because as they are leaving the dunya, for most people, their hearts are filled with love of the dunya around them. So it's very difficult for them to be leaving all that which they love, all that which they worshipped. But the believer, by virtue of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, he was not worshipping his wealth. He was not worshipping his fame. She was not worshipping her reputation. She was not worshipping her position, her education. He was not worshipping all the things that he accumulated. Rather, he's worshipping none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at that last moment, he knows that he's returning to that Rabb. She knows she's returning to that Rabb. So the soul is filled with joy and it becomes easy. And I, for a very particular reason, wanted to start our talk out about this, because by remembering death, we can have ikhlas and sincerity in all that we do. As believers, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah really defines who we are and what we do and why we do what we do. And our focus must be focused on practicing La ilaha illallah, sharing La ilaha illallah, and defending La ilaha illallah. When it comes to practicing La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, we remember throughout our day as we do our salah. And wallahi, I mention this because I realize that if as believers we understand the meaning of these words, many of the problems that hold us back as a community would be overcome. We say إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ at least 17 times a day in our fourth salah, maybe much more inshallah for doing our sunnahs and our nawafil. Every day as believers we say إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. You alone, Ya Allah, we seek, and you alone do we rely on. You alone, Ya Allah, do we worship, and you alone do we put our trust in. And this is important, because often what divides our community, we let our egos get in the way. We let unhealthy and unfair competition get in the way. We let the shaitan divide us. But the salah that we do 5 times a day is to remind us, Iyaka na'budu, Ya Allah, we are only seeking you. We are not doing the work that we do as a community and as individuals, seeking fame, seeking wealth, seeking position, seeking respect, seeking honor. That is all part of the dunya. We are doing it only to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Iyaka na'budu. Only you, Ya Allah, are we seeking through our worship and through our good deeds and through our efforts as a community. My shaykh would teach me that, Hassan, if you're raising funds for the masjid and people don't give your masjid but they give the other masjid, if you feel sad, that's a sign that you lack sincerity. Because are we collecting for ourselves and our organizations and our egos, or are we collecting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Iyaka na'bud, Ya Allah, we're only worshipping you. We are not worshipping ourselves, our egos, our reputation. our wealth. We are worshiping only وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, and we seek your help. That we rely only on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a category of people that Allah loves. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. Allah loves those who put their trust in Him, not those who put their trust in their number or in their resources. And when things get difficult, it's often a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He reminds us that we sometimes make the mistake of putting our trust in other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Allah asks us in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhal insan ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. O human being, what dilutes you from your most generous Lord? What is it that makes you forget your Creator? And the answer is within the question. It is often Allah's generosity upon us that makes us forget our need for Him. So we start using the blessings that Allah has gifted us to forget Him sometimes. Or even worse, we use the blessings and the gifts from Allah to disobey Him. And what can we disobey Allah except with the gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us? And then out of His mercy, when we start forgetting Allah because of the blessings He has given us, and using these blessings to disobey Him, then He may put those blessings at risk so that we reconnect and reestablish our trust in Him. As believers, my brothers and sisters, it's very important we remember that we don't put our trust in our wealth or in our resources or even in our good deeds. Rather, we put our trust exclusively in the rahmah of Allah for our success in this life and in the next. Yes, we work hard and we work the best that we can, and Allah loves those who put their wealth and their sweat and their effort for His sake. But ultimately, we don't rely on our good deeds to enter Jannah. We rely in Allah's rahmah. And in the same way, we don't rely in our strength and our resources to be successful in the dunya. Yes, we put forth our best effort, but we put our reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not look at the odds that we face. We do not look at the challenges that we face. Rather, we look at the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask ourselves, what effort and what sacrifice can we put for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? As believers, we must be hopeful. We cannot be a people of despair. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us that if the day of judgment were about to start and we had a sapling, we had a seed, what should we do? He said, plant the seed, even though nobody will benefit from that tree. That tree will not grow, it will not give anybody fruits. But we don't put our efforts for the results, we put our efforts purely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we combine our efforts with our prayers, as we learn from the beautiful example of Hajar radiallahu anha, that when she was left in the desert of Mecca, and she did not have water to feed her son Ismail alayhi salam, what did she do? Did she just run around looking for water? No. Did she just raise her hands and pray to Allah that He sends her water? No. She combined both the action and the prayer. And Allah loved that action so much that to this day, when people go for Hajj and for Umrah, they run between Safa and Marwa, sweating, putting forth their effort, but raising their hands and making dua to Allah, combining the prayer and the action. That's what we need, because we live in a time that people often like you to become full of despair, and despair is from the shaitan. We have to find inspiration through the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Allah warned the Sahaba not to put their trust even in their means. We know وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنٍ إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ. Allah describes the believers that on the day of Hunayn, the Muslims were in the strongest number they had ever been, and they thought that they could easily overcome the challenges that they faced. And Allah reminded them, remember on that day you put your trust in your own resources. No, don't forget your humble beginnings. Put your trust in me. Put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In essence, as believers, we rely on Allah to seek the pleasure of Allah. We do everything seeking His pleasure, and our best means and our best recourse is our trust in Him. And being driven by a compassion and a gratitude to Allah that we've been blessed with this kalima of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, and a love that this world and our fellow human beings, our neighbors, our brothers and sisters, our colleagues, our neighbors, have this kalima of La ilaha illallah. Don't underestimate the value of this word. And Allah will ask us, what did we do to share the beauty of this kalima with the society around us? And that's the role that we have, that we can play in this land. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, through his effort, through his love, through his compassion, through his dua, through his sweat, through his tears, you find that he turned the greatest enemies of Islam into its greatest supporters. He did not give up hope, nor did he despair, nor did he give up on them. Rather, when he saw even the worst enemies of the deen of Allah, that when they were putting their energy to attack the deen of Allah, he saw their energy and their potential, and he said, if they are putting this energy against the deen, imagine if they were to put it for the deen, what they could accomplish. خيركم في الجاهلية خيركم في الإسلام. The best of you in the days of Jahiliyyah are the best of you in Islam. And therefore we saw through his effort, Khalid ibn al-Walid, Abu Sufyan, Umar radiallahu anhum, and many others who were putting their energies to attack the deen of Allah, switching and putting that same energy to defend the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, Umar radiallahu anhu, literally on the way to kill Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and after encountering Rasulullah, leaving with La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My brothers and sisters, appreciate this kalima of La ilaha illallah that Allah has put in our hearts, and recognize that this is the word that will save us from an eternity in Jahannam and will guarantee us, inshallah, an eternity in the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But don't be greedy and don't be stingy with it. There are millions of people out there that maybe are smarter than us, wealthier than us, more accomplished than us, but they don't have this kalima. They may even be kinder than us. They may even be nicer than us. They may even be more polite than us. Some of them may even have better morals and character than us, but they still have been deprived of this kalima of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. This kalima is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the way you show this appreciation for this gift is you invest your resources not only in adhering to it, but being a means to share it with the society around you. And if Allah were to guide one person through your efforts, it's better than the dunya and what it contains. May Allah bless us to be of those people who enter the rahmah of Allah, enter the Jannah on the day of judgment, carrying nations behind us, carrying communities behind us. Let us not be those who just go alone. And who knows if we can even enter alone. We don't want to be that person that our deeds have been weighed, and alhamdulillah we're blessed that we have more hasanat than sayyat, so we're being sent to Jannah, and then our neighbors call us back and say, Ya Allah, he saw me in shirk, he saw me in disobedience, he never once invited me to the haqq. Had he called me, I would have answered, but he never called me. What will we say to Rabbul Alameen on that day? We have to invest, my brothers and sisters, as a community in sharing the beauty of the kalima of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Don't let Islamophobia hold you back, and we'll talk about that. The enemies of Islam are spending over $200 million, not just to scare Muslims away from practicing Islam, but really to scare you from holding on to your deen. Because they recognize that only you have the power to ensure your success or your failure as a community. The reason the Islamophobia industry has spent over $200 million to demonize Islam is because they recognize our faith is the source of our strength. And we can either choose to adhere to it or we can give it up. And they spend that money why? And why is it that people sometimes turn away from the deen of Allah? It's because they fall into the mistake of fearing other than Allah more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or loving other than Allah more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who is more worthy of fear than Allah? No one. Who is more worthy of loving other than Allah? No one. So how is it that out of fear of other than Allah we turn away from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? We see it happening sometimes. How is it that out of loving other than Allah we turn away from obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Don't allow the Islamophobia industry and the money that they've spent to demonize Islam push you away from your deen. Recognize, my brothers and sisters, that our iman and our faith is the greatest gift that we have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the most valuable thing that we have is the only thing that we have that can never be taken away from us by force. Everything we have and everything that we value in our life can be deprived from us, can be taken away from us. Except our iman. Our iman can never be taken away from us. We can only choose to give it up. Don't empower Islamophobes to win by choosing to give up your faith and to give up your identity. Rather, overcome the enemies of Islam, overcome Islamophobia by holding on to your deen stronger now. And what a blessing it is to hold on to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, that on the day of judgment Allah can say, my servant, when people were running away from the deen, when people were mocking Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when people were turning away from the deen,
You were running to the deen. You were running to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now be with my Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My brothers and sisters, the best way to react to the increase in Islamophobia, it's very simple. Revive the neglected sunnahs of Rasulullah in your life. Recognize that the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a rahmah for us. Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we only sent you as a mercy to all creation. And if we're truly followers of Muhammad and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then we must be a means of mercy in our home, in our community, in our family, in our country, and in our world. If we're not a source of mercy within our families, within our community, within our country, and within our world, then we're not truly following the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're sent as a mercy. And if there's one thing this country and this world needs now more than ever, it is mercy. And our religion, alhamdulillah, it has the solutions to the problems that are plaguing this country. Malcolm X, he said if there is one religion that can solve the social, racial, and economic problems that are plaguing America, it is Islam. And this is why they're spending their resources against it. We must hold on to it. Unfortunately, too often, we see people responding to the increase in Islamophobia by turning away from the deen. We need the exact opposite reaction. The best response to Islamophobia, my brothers and sisters, is to hold on strongly to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to serve the society around you, to serve the people around you. Nothing angers Islamophobes more than Muslims who are proudly holding on to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, proudly holding on to the Muslim identity and are serving the people. We need to show this country and our neighbors what we have to offer. Unfortunately, we've been put in a very humiliating position where often our best arguments and our best statements are, oh, don't discriminate against us, don't outlaw us, we're American too, we're human too, we're all the same, don't discriminate against us. And we're just asking for equal treatment. That's a very humbling and humiliating position to be in. We should not be simply calling for our acceptance, rather we should be showing people what we have to offer them that can uplift them, that can liberate them from the problems that they're struggling with, that can uplift their lives and liberate them from slavery to their next slavery, to the systems of injustice that they are often drowning in. Ultimately, as a community, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with this deen that can never be taken away from us. And one of the things that really shook me to my core, and I share this story with you, was one of the Syrian refugees who swam across the Mediterranean Sea, and he said a few words, and if we were to understand these words, it would change our life. He said, "Ma dal ma'ishi," nothing remains with me, I've lost everything that I have. Everything that we often sell out our deen to get, he said, I lost it all. Ma dal ma'ishi. My home, my wealth, my career, my family, everything. I've lost everything except for one thing. My deen dal bas. Only my religion remains with me. Why? He answered in one word, Jua, it is inside me. It is inside me. And that's a powerful reminder. Everything can be taken away from us except that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't choose to give it up. And don't respond to these challenging times by turning away from the deen. No, now is the time we have to hold on to the deen even more. Don't respond to these challenging times by turning away from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rather, respond by holding on to the sunnah even stronger, and then proudly, while representing the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, serving the people around us. Therefore, we don't simply win arguments. It's not arguments that we need to win, but rather we need to win hearts and minds. And we do that through adherence to the sunnah and serving the people, serving the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, driven by love and compassion. Remember, my brothers and sisters, that we are the mirrors that have been entrusted with the noble responsibility and task of reflecting the beautiful message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People don't see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't see the Quran. What they see are me and you. And if we're doing our job, and if we're pure and we're clean, then we will reflect the beauty of the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this land. But otherwise, if the mirror is dirty and you put the most beautiful object before it, this object will appear dirty. Likewise, if we are dirty with our akhlaq, our character, our sins, then we won't be able to reflect the beauty of the message of Rasulullah in this country at a time when this country needs it now more than ever. Don't be stingy in holding on to this message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As a community, let us get behind important initiatives like the Muslim Link, where we don't simply tell people what we are not. One of the problems that we're facing as a community is we often find ourselves busy telling people what we are not. Oh, we are not this and we are not that. My brothers and sisters, don't waste time telling people what you are not. Rather, invest time in showing them what you are through service, while adhering to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We need to be willing and ready to challenge the status quo. I was speaking with some Catholic priests that are very good friends of mine, and they said, we're finding many people are leaving our deen and are becoming Muslim. And he said, the reason this is happening, and this is a non-Muslim Christian leader, he said, the reason this is happening is because our religion has often been used to reinforce the status quo in this country, and people are not happy with the status quo, but Islam came to challenge the status quo. And we need to be willing to challenge the status quo, to change the narrative, to start telling our own stories, to challenge the prominent narratives that are out there, while adhering to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and serving the people, and not taking our freedom to practice this country, our deen in this country for granted. Alhamdulillah, I will tell you this, as Muslims in America, we have very little to complain about. If we can't be good Muslims here, we can't be good Muslims anywhere. The fitna that we face in holding on to our deen is found everywhere. But the freedom and the opportunity we have to practice our deen, we find in very few other places. As I often say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us, and the law is also with us. We have it very easy. But if we don't use it, we will lose it. If we don't use our freedom to practice Islam in this country, to adhere to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and serve the people, then trust me, we will lose this freedom. The enemies of Islam are literally spending millions to turn people away from the deen. This is why Allah warns us, وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Spend in the path of Allah, don't lead yourself to destruction. This isn't simply talking about destruction in the akhirah, but a destruction in the dunya as well, because if the Muslim community is not investing in representing itself for itself, while the enemies of Islam are spending their money to demonize Islam. And if they succeed, they can succeed in outlawing it. I was debating somebody on Fox News, and he was literally using what happened to the Japanese Americans in terms of internment camps as justification for what policies they want to promote against the Muslim community. So if we're not making our voice heard to show the beauty of our deen, they're making their voices heard to misrepresent it. And our problem is not how much they are doing to attack Islam. Our problem very frequently is how little we are doing to represent our faith. I remember working with a journalist not long ago, a couple years ago, about a story of a young Palestinian American teenager who was beaten up by the Israelis. And after working with that journalist, I told him the story and what was happening. And he said, Hassan, shocks me. He said, I always thought that the Palestinians were occupying the Israelis. I didn't know it was the Israelis who were occupying the Palestinians. And subhanAllah, he said, I'm glad I worked on this story because it completely changed my mind about what's happening. This is a well-respected, one of the leading journalists that I've worked with. And of course, why would he believe otherwise when those who are representing Israeli interests have spent millions in think tanks and millions in media engagement and millions in lobbying to make their story heard, and we barely have 2-3 Muslim American newspapers in the country to make our voice heard? Again, the problem is not with how much they are doing. Often the problem is how little we are doing. But the good news is, alhamdulillah, as a community, we are babies, and babies grow quickly. They really do. We find we put a little effort and we see a lot of results. And we're seeing these positive results. And we saw that with the Muslim ban recently. It wasn't just the Muslim community that stood and defended itself, but alhamdulillah, over 127 tech companies standing with us, filing lawsuits and amicus briefs against those bans. Over 17 states filing lawsuits or amicus briefs to stand with us. Thousands of people showing up at airports all across this country to protest with us, alhamdulillah. The same person who before was too shy to pray in the airport, I know some people, they go and they pray in the bathroom. I don't even know if it's accepted, if it's even tahir enough, because it's private. Now, alhamdulillah, big jama'ah is praying right in the terminal, in the airport. But alhamdulillah, people becoming more proud of their identity. Now when I travel in the airport wearing my kufi, I feel like a celebrity. Everybody looks and smiles and they're very supportive. People are sympathetic to the Muslim community. Now is the time to show them the beauty of your deen. Don't simply call for acceptance, but show them what you have to offer them. Show them how your deen has that which they are seeking, that which they need. Don't be disheartened by these challenges. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the best diamonds only under the most intense of pressure. Without intense pressure, diamonds cannot be created. In the same way, the pressure our community is under right now will bring out the gems that we have within us. In order for an arrow to fly forward, the string must be pulled back first. When the string is pulled back, the arrow flies forward. Same way, when it looks like things are going backward, that's Allah's message that He's getting ready to push us forward. And we see that throughout this history of Islam. The Rasulullah's greatest victories always came after some of His worst and most difficult setbacks. But they didn't do what they did seeking success in this dunya. They did it purely seeking the pleasure of Allah. And when Allah said that truly they believed in إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, Allah opened the dunya for them as well. This is why Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Do not grieve and do not be sad, for surely you will rise high if you are believers. Allah promises that we will rise high if we stand strong with our faith. But otherwise, if we turn away from the faith, then there is no guarantee in that regard. And I want to finish with a very important story that I think can often influence us and inspire us. And one of the most often mentioned stories in the Quran, the story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And subhanAllah says something very beautiful which we should all reflect over, and I've been thinking over these ayahs a lot, especially over the last couple of months. Allah says, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ وَنُمَكِّنَ لَهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنُرِيَ فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَجُنُودَهُمَا مِنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَحْذَرُونَ. Allah says, we wish to show our favor to those who are oppressed on the earth. وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً, and make them leaders. وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ, and make them the inheritors. Really, now we find, alhamdulillah, the American Muslim community, we are becoming the leaders of the civil rights movement in this country. Many of us came to America seeking freedom and liberty and opportunity. The best gift that we can give back to this country is preserving those principles of liberty and justice for future generations to come. This legacy we will establish as American Muslims in this country, we will be known 100, 200, 300 years from now as those who stood strong to defend justice and liberty at a time when people were undermining liberty by attacking the Muslim community. And that's why I often say Islamophobia is one of the biggest threats that faces this country. Because it's a tool that's been used to undermine freedom. You know, in Tennessee, they tried to pass a law saying practicing Islam is treason, punishable by 20 years in jail. That didn't offend me as a Muslim. It offended me as an American, as a lawyer. It's unconstitutional. So Islamophobia is a tool that's used to undermine freedom in this country for all people. Donald Trump, when he was pushing the anti-Muslim, the Muslim ban, one of the arguments he made, he claimed that he had authority to make laws that need not be consistent with the Constitution and were not reviewable by the courts. He essentially claimed authority of a dictator, and he used Islamophobia to push for that authority. Now, alhamdulillah, the court slapped him down and rejected that argument. But you can see how Islamophobia is a tool that's used to undermine freedom in this country, and also to promote conflict in this world. The hundreds of thousands of children that were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan through the illegal US wars over there would not have been possible without first them being dehumanized. When Madeleine Albright was asked about the 500,000 children who were killed in Iraq, she said, we think the price is worth it, because they were dehumanized. So Islamophobia as a tool, recognize it and see it for the threat that it is. Islamophobia as a tool is used to undermine freedom in this country, and it's used to escalate conflict. And we, who is in the best position to challenge Islamophobia? We are. We're in the best position to challenge Islamophobia, as I mentioned earlier, by holding on to the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and serving the people, serving the country, being a source of mercy in this land. We can overcome Islamophobia. And by overcoming Islamophobia, we can promote peace and justice in this world. We can protect civil rights in this land and promote peace in the world. That's the tremendous role that we have as American Muslims in this country. By challenging Islamophobia through adherence to the Sunnah and service to the people, we can keep America a free and just nation for all people, and we can promote peace in the world. That's the incredible role that we have in this land, and we have to rise to it. And now is the time to rise to it. I've never felt it easier to be an American Muslim than it is now. The whole country is standing with us, waiting for our leadership. وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً, and we will make them leaders. وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ, and we will let them inherit the earth. وَنُمَكِّنَ لَهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, Allah says we will establish them on this earth. وَنُرِيَ فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَجُنُودَهُمَا مِنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَحْذَرُونَ. Allah says, and I will show Pharaoh and his ministers that which they feared. Through their own efforts, they will see that which they feared. See, Fir'aun attacked Musa alayhi salam and his followers. Why? Because he didn't want the religion of Islam to go strong in his kingdom. But it was through the attacks against Musa that ultimately made Musa alayhi salam grow strong. Allah will often use the worst enemies of Islam to gather people to listen and learn about our deen. We saw that when Musa alayhi salam started calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't have the resources to get everybody in Egypt to listen to him. So who did Allah use to get all the people to listen to Musa alayhi salam? Fir'aun literally, if you read the Quran, he went and he said, he used his army to gather all the people to come and hear the debate between him and his sorcerers and Musa alayhi salam. And when people heard Fir'aun and they heard Musa alayhi salam, who did they choose to follow? They followed Musa alayhi salam. So recognize that when you find people demonizing Islam, attacking Islam, Allah is using them to get the conversation about Islam started. But then we have to be in a position, through engaging the media, through engaging groups like the Muslim Link and others, we have to be in a position, in a strong position, to take the conversation to the next level and show the beauty of what our deen is about. Not tell them what we are about, but show them what we are about through adherence to the Sunnah and through service. Allah told Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam something beautiful. He said, وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي, O Musa, I chose you for me. What could be greater than being chosen for Allah? Now what did being chosen for Allah mean? He said, اذهب أنت وأخوك بآياتي ولا تني في ذكري. Go you and your brother with my signs, and don't slacken in remembering me. Allah is preparing him for his mission. He said, to be ready for the mission, go with your brother. Don't do it alone. Keep that brotherhood strong. Go with my signs. وَلَا تَنْيَ فِي ذِكْرِ. Don't slacken in remembering me. Keep that dhikr of Allah strong at all times. Allah is with us. Allah sees us. Allah hears us. Subhanallah walhamdulillah. La ilaha illallah. Nothing is worthy of worship except Allah. Of fearing except Allah. Of desiring except Allah. Of loving except Allah. La ilaha illallah. Keep that dhikr of Allah strong. Then اذهبا إلى فرعون إنه طغى. Go to the Pharaoh because he's transgressed. Challenging oppression, that is the work of the messengers of Allah. That is the work of Allah. This is why Allah describes the believers in the Quran. It says, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصْوَابَهُمُ الْبَغْيُ هُمْ يَنْتَصِرُونَ. The believers are those who, when they face tyranny, they overcome it. And this is why the greatest form of striving in the path of Allah is speaking truth in the face of oppression and injustice. Speaking truth in the face of tyrants. And that's what newspapers are about. It's about speaking truth to power. This is why your effort to support the Muslim Link is so rewarding, because you're literally funding the effort of speaking truth to power and making our voice heard and representing ourselves for ourselves as times others are spending their wealth to demonize our religion. So when this meeting happened and Allah used Fir'aun to gather all the people, and people heard Musa and they believed in him, and then, we'll finish in the next few minutes, subhanAllah, when people believed in him, Fir'aun was enraged. So he sent his army behind them. And they fled. And as they fled, by the dawn time, they saw that the sea was in front of them and the armies of Fir'aun behind them. What did they say? They said, Inna lamudrakun, we are destroyed. They see the sea in front of them, the army behind them, their messenger Musa alayhi salam is with them, and they gave up hope. They gave in to despair. They said, Inna lamudrakun, we are destroyed. Unfortunately, too many Muslims today, when things get tough, they say the same thing, Inna lamudrakun, we are destroyed, let us change our names. And subhanAllah, it doesn't even work. You know, in New York City, they were spying on Muslims, and the first Muslims they spied on were the Muslims who changed their name from Muhammad to Mo, saying, what are you guys trying to hide? Umar radiallahu anh said, we are a people, Allah honored us through Islam. If we seek honor through other than Allah, we will be humiliated. Don't forget the power of Allah. If you get a moment, go online and watch a video about the size of the universe. Just a small reminder of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the Prophet ﷺ said, our universe is like a ring inside a desert. And that compared to the next heaven is a ring inside the desert. There's no limit to the power and the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He's with you, who can overcome you? Have that tawakkul ala Allah. Don't be the people who say, Inna lamudrakun, we're destroyed, let me remove my hijab. Inna lamudrakun, we're destroyed, I'm not going to pray in public. Inna lamudrakun, we're destroyed, I'm going to hide my Muslim identity. It doesn't work. Don't be like Bani Israel, who when things got tough, they said, Inna lamudrakun, we're destroyed, and they abandoned the support and the trust they had in their messenger. Rather, be like Musa alayhi salam, who even when he saw his people give up hope around him, and even when they said, Inna lamudrakun, we are destroyed, what was his response? His response was a very strong, Kalla, for sure we are not destroyed. Why? Inna ma'i Rabbi sayadeen. My Lord is with me, He will guide me. That's where that wala taniya fi dhikri came into play. That's where that dhikr of Allah and that trust in Allah and that remembrance of Allah and that iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in came into play and uplifted him. Where when his people gave up, he said, for sure we are not destroyed. My Lord is with me, He will guide me. And Allah opened the sea for them and they were saved. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed Fir'aun and his armies and liberated them. So don't be like Bani Israel in that regard. Be like Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, who when things get tough, say, Kalla, inna ma'i Rabbi sayadeen. My brothers and sisters, our time is up. Recognize, yes, times are challenging, but remember Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, through his efforts and his dua and his sincerity and his compassion, he turned the worst enemies of Islam of his time into its greatest heroes. And that can and will happen today as well. If we follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and serve the people, likewise within our lifetime, we will see the greatest enemies of Islam today, inshallah, will become its greatest heroes tomorrow. But we have to have that trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stand strong behind our institutions. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we'll finish with this ayah that really gives us the key to our success. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. That if you want to be successful, you must do these four things. اصبروا, be patient. If you change your name, you hide your identity, you're not being patient when things get tough. اصبروا, be patient. It's worthy of being patient for Allah. The patient will be rewarded by Allah without measure. اصبروا وصابروا. Sabiru is compete in perseverance. Don't let their efforts to attack Islam be more than your effort to defend your deen and defend your community. Don't let their efforts to attack the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and demonize the image of Rasulullah be more than your effort to share the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this community, in this society, by adhering to his sunnah. And that's the best response. When people attack him, you're really upset, don't get angry, don't protest, find a neglected sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and revive it in your day-to-day, and proudly be an ambassador of the message of Rasulullah in the public. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why I wear my kufi. Really. And I think it's a shame as brothers, we just let the sisters be the ambassadors of the deen, may Allah reward you. And the brothers, we're all going incognito. It's not right. It's not right. MashaAllah, they like it. If you're not wearing a kufi, make a niyat. It's not about a reward. It's not, are you going to get a good deed or two? It's about being an ambassador of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam out there. At a time when people are insulting Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Don't let their hatred for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam be more than your love for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You know, Pamela Geller, she actually gave an award, a $10,000 award to whoever can draw the worst image insulting Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I don't want to stand before Allah on the Day of Judgment. He shows me that she put more effort and spent more wealth and energy to attack Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam than you did to defend Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You know, maybe we can have a special issue with the Muslim Link about the the mercy that Rasulullah ﷺ has contributed to America, the benefits this country has through Rasulullah ﷺ. And maybe there will be a few brothers who will just sponsor that issue out of love for Rasulullah ﷺ. Go to Brother Minaj afterwards. He didn't tell me to do this. It's just, I'm winging it right now. Say we want to sponsor a special issue about what Rasulullah ﷺ's contribution to this country is. To spite her because of what she did. Put more effort defending our deen than they're putting attacking. Don't let their hatred be more than love. Spiru wa sabiru wa rabitu, and defend your community. Don't take your freedom for granted. Use it before you lose it. Use your freedom of speech. Use your ability to engage in da'wah. Use your ability to serve the people. Otherwise, the enemies of Islam will succeed in outlawing this deen in this country as they wish. Wattaqullah, and don't forget, do it with the taqwa of Allah. Do it purely for the sake of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who serve His deen sincerely, who serve His creation sincerely, who are true ambassadors of the message of mercy that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sent with. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us a means by which people fall in love with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam through our efforts, and make us ai''imma, leaders of justice in this land. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us those who are loved by those who are in need, are beloved to those who face oppression, are beloved to those who face injustice. May we be a source of victory and justice for the oppressed. May we be a source of help for those in need. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us to truly reflect the message of mercy that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sent with, and make us lovers of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and a means for others to love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That is our future and our role in this land. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.